Well, Peyton was born December 20th, 2001.
It's just the most incredible miracle you can ever imagine. And so you have all these dreams for him, these hopes, and certainly you never wish any ill will on him. But
I can start probably about a week before his actual diagnosis. His older brother said to me, "Gosh, Peyton got up and went to the bathroom several times during the movie." I said, "Well, don't be joking about that. That can be a sign of diabetes."
Honestly, I was a little scared because I was like joking about it before, like saying, "Oh, you probably have it," because like everything that happened that week. But then when it actually came, I was actually pretty scared.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, so I was kind of scared too.
A couple days before, I was in a tennis tournament, and I had won the first ever match I won in the main draw, and I was really excited, and then I got destroyed the second round and didn't feel very good.
So fast forward a week later, and my daughter called me from the home phone and she said, "Mom, Peyton just threw up." And so I thought about it for a minute. I was like, something's not right. Something's got to be wrong with him. When we were leaving and knew we were going to the hospital, he was scared, as any child would be who's 12 years old. But by the time we got to the emergency room, he really had a calm about him. When he stepped on the scale, I knew before they'd done any tests what he had.
I was getting close to 100 like a few weeks before, and I was 90 pounds, and I was like what? And then they checked my blood sugar, and I didn't know what a normal number was, but it was 593. That's scary remembering that number.
his blood sugar was so high they had to immediately take him to the emergency room.
Right.
And that's really what struck me, like, oh my gosh, this is really serious. For a pediatrician to say, go right now, because we have to get his levels down, that's when it kind of hit me that this is something pretty big. So you certainly, anytime you hear news like that of one of your children, it just puts a real lump in your stomach because you hurt for them. You know, you have this level of shock. But then after that, you know, it's time to kind of roll up your sleeves and let's learn about this thing, and it's time to adjust and figure it out.
When I was diagnosed, there was a 4-month-old baby in the room next to me that just got diagnosed. And I think about all the tough times I've had, and that poor baby, it can't tell when it's low, it can't tell its parents, and their parents have to be with it all day, every day. And I feel so bad for them.
Obviously, you know, when you have a child, you want everything to go well for them their whole life. You know, there's no break from this disease. Other diseases may be horrible, but then you may have a remission or a cure, you know, but this type 1 diabetes, there is no cure yet. It's a daily process that you have to think about 24 hours a day, no matter what you're doing. And I think that's what I did not realize at the time, was just how all-consuming this disease is.
But as diabetes does, you know, it's easy to start out with a great attitude, you know, but what happens over time, it's every day, and then every now and then there are those times when you just break down and you're like, God, this thing stinks. And you know what? It does. There's nothing you can really say or do to make them feel better other than agree with them. You know, it stinks. You know, it's easy to say, oh, that's no big deal. You watch somebody give themselves a shot one time, but what you don't realize is, hey, try 4,500 of that in 1 year. You know, it gets old. You know, people say, you know, what do you do if you forget? You can't. I mean, there's consequences that aren't good with your blood sugar going, you know, really high or dropping really low. So you have to, that's the thing. You got to be on the screws every day to manage it. So in some ways, I feel lucky because I think about whether it's a single parent out there who's just trying to make it and they don't understand and they don't have the medical background trying to figure this thing out, or maybe it's a child who may not have the same amount of discipline and drive to manage it every day. Those are the people that I hurt for. You
know, their blood sugar can drop low when they're asleep, and if you don't have a continuous monitor on or aren't alerted to the fact, you know, it can be deadly. There are children who won't wake up the next morning if that happens. And so I think it definitely takes a toll on parents.
You know, we had a friend of ours this past summer lost his daughter. She was going to college, you know, had been managing it for 10 years. And just something happened. You know, it's a disease and it's nature, and there's things that happen, and if you're just not on top of it every minute, every day, that's the consequence. So it really hits you. Like, you just can't ever take anything for granted, and you can't ever drop your guard, because the consequences are, that's it. In only a year and a half since Peyton's been diagnosed, we've already gotten technology improvements that have helped our quality of life, and that would not be achieved without the constant fundraising that JDRF has done throughout the years. These dollars are real, and they're bringing back return that are helping the quality of life of every young person out there with diabetes, and certainly their families.
Last year at the 2015 JDRF Gala, it was the first one that Derek and I had been involved with in any capacity, because Peyton, our son, was diagnosed the August prior, and we decided that we should go kind of see what it was all about, and we were so impressed with the gala, and really so impressed with the amount of research dollars and the difference that it makes in Peyton's day-to-day life now. Things that people were giving money to JDRF for at the first gala here in Dallas 20 years ago have impacted his life today. You know, I mean, he has a continuous glucose monitor that I can watch when he's playing tennis or if he's spending the night at a friend's house. And if I see it going low, I can send him a text and say, hey, you know, might want to eat something, or to take a break during a tennis match. I mean, all of these things that are possible for him because of the money that people were so generous to give to try to find not only a cure for this disease, but to help make the day-to-day life so much better. I truly believe that in Peyton's lifetime, there will be a cure for type 1, and when that day comes, of course, I mean, we will all breathe a big sigh of relief.
The day we find out a cure for type 1 diabetes, I'm taking him to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee.
I would take him to New York, and we'd go to Dylan's Candy Bar and get him a bunch of candy.
I'd feel completely free, like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders.
I think the freedom he's going to feel from not having to check his blood sugar and not having to do shots, I would probably just sit back and watch him and see the freedom that came with that.